Hello, my name is John Bannon. I'm an attorney and philosopher. In today's video, I'm going to explain Hanssonian superdeterminism and transcendent logic. When I speak of Hanssonian superdeterminism, I'm referring to a unique class of superdeterminism proven by Swedish theoretical physicist Dr. Johan Hansson in 2020. You can find his proof in the peer-reviewed physics journal Physics Essays, Volume 33, Number 2, June of 2020, pages 216 to 218. Dr. Hansson proved that we live in a fourth-dimensional static block universe without cause and effect in physics, or without probabilistic causation or physical causation in physics. So we live in this three-dimensional space which inhabits a hidden fourth-dimensional static dimension of time. And the only thing that's in this block universe, besides nothing, is static particles set in place like pebbles in concrete. Without physical causation, particles can't move, they can't change, they're permanent, but they do create patterns through the static dimension of time, which we describe through our logical mathematical laws of physics. So, because there is transcendent logic, such as virtual particles, then one needs to explain why some logic is transcendent and other logic consists of physical particles. So, if you ask the question, well, what is the universe? The most obvious answer is that because you can describe the universe using logical mathematical laws of physics, then the universe must be logic. However, there is a recent scientific experiment which proved that virtual particles play an actual role in real particle collision results. But virtual particles are mathematical constructs, they are not real. So the fact that they're involved in the outcome of real particle collisions means that there has to be a transcendent logic at play in the universe. So the question is, well, what exactly is the role of transcendent logic versus the particle logic that is exhibited by the real particle collisions? Um, so if the universe is logic, then transcendent logic is what goes into getting a defined result. The defined result must exist in its own reality, being excluded from all other possible results under transcendent logic. And that reality is the particle block universe. So, in other words, the transcendent logic is what is used to get to a defined result. And the defined result is the particle block universe. And it's defined because, as a result, it is excluded from all other possible results. And therefore, because it's excluded from all these other possible results, it must have its own reality in order to exist. And that reality is the particle block universe. Um, the entire block universe being determinable from the superdeterministic correlations of all its particles is itself a defined result. So, under Hanssonian superdeterminism, all particles in the universe are superdeterministically correlated in this web of correlations, which means that every particle and every value of every event or particle has to fit perfectly and uniquely within this web of correlations that go throughout the block universe, including past, present, and future particles. So everything in the universe, every particle has to fit uniquely within this block web of correlations. But that entire block, that entire web, is determinable based on all the other correlations. So if you knew some of the correlations of an event, you can determine what the event would have to be, even an inherently random event. So even if it appears to be inherently random, it's actually determined by all the other correlated events that it is set in within this web, within the block universe. So the block universe itself is determinable through superdeterministic correlations, which means it is a defined result. And because it's a defined result, it has to exist in its own reality. And because of that, that's why you have a block universe. Um, so logic is used to get defined results, but logic must logically precede those defined results. Because transcendent logic must logically precede the defined results of the particle block universe, then that can only happen via atemporal creation of the block universe by God. Atemporal creation meaning the creation of the block universe outside of space time by a creator God. Um, so, transcendent logic uh, logically proves that because it must precede a defined result, meaning our block universe, then the block universe had to be atemporally created by that transcendent logic. And atemporal creation requires a supremely intelligent free being in order to apply that transcendent logic to get a defined result, which means you also need a God. Now, because different maths can produce the same defined result, example, 1 plus 1 equals 2, but 1 half plus 1 half plus 1 also equals 2, then ultimate reality should be described as logic rather than math, with the understanding that math is logic. So, logic is a broader concept than just mathematics because you also have um, arbitrary values that are logically possible and can be part of the logic, the transcendent logic of a defined result, but you need a God to give you those values to apply the possibilities of logic. So, logic is a broader concept than just a mathematical equation, just maths. But math is logic. So, it's much better to describe reality as logic as opposed to mathematics. All right, well, I hope you learned something, and I'll give you a second to read the board. All right, until next time, take care.